We work. Microphone is not working, is it? Yeah, it doesn't work, yeah.
And entire Slovenian film community. I have I personally think this is something natural because we are separated only with national border. So our friends of Slovenian film, Fritz Hock, with his festival K3 in Pilah, Beljak, knows this very well. So I warmly welcome him and everyone else and enjoy a great time here in Portorož. Spoštovane filmarke, spoštovani filmari slovenski, tudi vas lepo pozdravljam na tem avstrijsko-slovenskem koprodukcijskem srečanju. Upam, da boste navezali dobre stike z našimi avstrijskimi partnerji in da bo v prihodnosti čim več slovensko-avstrijskih koprodukcij. Sedaj pa predajam besedo naprej. Hvala.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this co-production meeting. Thank you, Bojan, the director of the festival. Here we are with Roland Teichmann, the director of Austrian Film Institute, the friend of the film festival, Fritz Hock, the director of K3 Festival in Pilah, Beljak, and of course with Petra Vidmar, who is the head of the Producers Association of Slovenia. But before we start the discussion, I would give the word to the head of the Producers Guild. Now you have the Alexander Dumreicher to say a few words, since he's also with us, to then pass the word to a Slovenian guild president of producers, so we match both sides. Please.
So I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy that we can return from the Austrian side the visit of you, Natasha, and a Slovenian delegation that came to the Diagonale, the Festival of Austrian Films this year in Graz. So I am really, really happy and proud in the name of the Producers Association. It's the Fachverband Film und Musikwirtschaft. Our managing director, Markus Deutsch, is also here. Welcome, Markus. So, and there are Austrian producers, festival directors, so I'm really happy, and congratulations to the wonderful opening yesterday evening and the wonderful film that we could see. I wish us and you a very intense and fruitful discussion, and we are here for discussions and also, of course, to get to know your projects and to have an intense exchange, a cross-border exchange between Austria and Slovenia. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So maybe in advance, before I pass the word to Petra, who will be the moderator of our first part of this co-production meeting, just to tell you, you've all received the program. The plan is that in the first part of this meeting, Petra discusses with us and tries to get information for you producers about Slovenian possibilities and on Austrian side also. And then the second part, we will present the projects that are, at least in Slovenia, interested to find a co-producer from Austria. And in the third part, we have lunch at 1 o'clock there in the outside part of this same building. So I hope we will spend the first formal and then informal day together as memorable as possible. So Petra Vidmar, our producer and moderator for today, I give you the word.
Thank you very much, Natasha, and of course, welcome, dobrodošli vsi slovenski filmski ustvarjalci, welcome also all the Austrian filmmakers. We are really happy to host you here and to maybe get to know you better, you get to know us, and with that, I think we will be on a much better way to start co-producing more. I have prepared my questions now for Natasha and for Roland in the way of what would be my questions, or maybe what would be a question from an Austrian to a Slovenian, and vice versa. But I would really like it if somebody will have additional questions, specific question, that you just raise your hand and we will give you, and Kaya will come with a microphone and you can ask it. As said, let's not waste time and start with the tough questions to see what these two can provide for our films. So, Roland, again, welcome. I will actually give you a word at the beginning so that you can tell us in general about the Austrian Film Institute, what are the areas that you cover, and then we will go more precisely into co-production, because maybe it's also good, I mean, I know a bit more about it, I've seen, but I think it's good maybe also for the Slovenian filmmakers to understand what are your systems of support from development to distribution, how you follow these things, because in your case, a lot of it is then also important when you apply with a new project and so on. So, please. Opening word to you.
Okay, thank you very much. So just one sentence. I'm also really thankful to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's not just being polite to say I feel well to be here, but it's really the fact. I'm here for the first time and I really enjoy it very much, and I hope I'm invited again, maybe another year. So the Austrian Film Institute, well, basically we're the lead body to fund, which is already a first important description, fund, that we do not see ourselves as kind of investors, like it's a classical film fund with a cultural agenda that also focuses on the economic side of filmmaking, because it's very costly, a lot of tax money involved. So we support projects only for theatrical release, so no television, no series, no streaming, no service production. There's a different funding system for that in Austria. Separated with different funding bodies. So the Film Institute is there for cinema. Actually, we support all stages, beginning from the treatment to first drafts, so meaning development support, project development support, of course production support, and distribution support. So every film that gets supported by the Film Institute also gets support for the distribution in cinemas and for festivals. So if a film is invited to festivals, this is also supported. And we do lots of vocational training, because we're always, our goal is to strengthen the industry. So we try to encourage as many people from the film industry as possible, from all fields, from the creative side, from the producer side, to go on trainings, international training programs. And this is also something that we support. We support the persons participating in this program and not the structures. So it's quite a wide field. We do have, so to say, a dual funding system. Actually, it consists of 3 parts, but I don't want to go too much into detail because it would, be not time enough for that. But basically, we give selective support. Selective support means that there is a committee, there's a project committee taking the decisions on the funding applications. We had 4 application dates a year. Next year, we'll try 3 application dates, see how that works. And it's always all in one, so we do not separate like feature films, documentaries, animation, family entertainment, whatever. It's all in one decision-making process.
Which takes 2 or 3 times a year?
From end of 2024, 25, 3 times, for production support and project development, and for script development 4 times a year. And we're always 5 people deciding, 1 person representing production, distribution, script writing and directing, and I'm always presiding it. but there's one vote, so it's always a majority decision. It's a democratic process, people involved in the industry, and I think it's very important also as one part of the decision-making process that there's some kind of continuity in the decision-making process, so that people don't change too often. On the one hand, it's always a delicate process, like it has to be flexible, there has to be some kind of rotation, but not too much to keep the strategy going. And you have to have a strategy to follow, hopefully. And this is what we do. So this is the selective process. Just shortly described when the funding year starts. The first day of our sessions that take place normally for 3 days or so, because we really take time to discuss all the projects, is like a first day funding session of the first budgetary year. We always have a look at the market first. We say, okay, how does the Austrian market look like? So who's going to the cinema, what target groups, age groups, what worked, what not maybe. So just facts and figures, nothing that comes from your guts, but that you can quite easily collect. We put this on a table, and then we think, okay, what's going on internationally? How did festivals develop? What's on an artistic, from an artistic point of view, interesting? What are the latest trends, etc. And we try to bring all this together and draw a picture of reality for the moment. And then we look at the projects that were submitted and say, okay, well, where do these projects probably fit best? Like, okay, what's a project that might have the highest market appeal for an Austrian audience? What's a project that might have the highest appeal for an A-rated festival, etc. So this is, in short words, somehow the strategic process, because at the end of the day, at the end of the year, we try to build up a real portfolio of projects, like having enough genre films, especially comedies, family entertainment, animation for a national audience, having lots of, which is actually one of the core strengths of Austrian film, like projects with a high artistic potential, especially for international festivals and sales, documentaries, also very important part of the strategy. So we try to cover all that in a portfolio. Then there is a reference system which is automatic, like based on previous success. If your film reaches 40,000 admissions in Austria, or was shown at one of the A-rated festivals, there's a festival list, again, a bit complicated and detailed. So if you fulfill these success criteria, you get automatic support for your next project.
For development or for production?
The good thing, both. It goes, and the good thing is we changed this, I think, I can't remember now, 10 years ago probably. So this reference money goes not only to the producer, it goes foremost to the producer to finance either project development, or it can be part of a production support for next project. But it also goes to the director and writer separately. So that the director, because if a film is successful, it's not only the result of a great work from a producer, but of course also from a writer or a director. So we recognize that, and we give automatic support to them as well, that they can develop their own projects independently from production companies. So this is part of the reference system, so to say. And since January 1st, 2023, we have a new funding program called ÖFI Plus, which is also an automatic support mechanism, basically, based on criteria that have got nothing to do with the content of a project. It's basically just depends on the spend. So depending on your spend, you get an automatic support. It's an incentive funding of 30% plus 5% for green producing, so 35% on your spend based on 80% of the Austrian spend due to European law. And this is also automatic. And that was quite successful. This year we have a budget of roughly 40 million euro only for ÖFI Plus, which is really a lot. And we'll see. A new government is on the way in Austria, so we'll see how the budget will look like 2025, 26. But I think the program, which is already evaluated now after a very short period of time, is really quite successful. So there are basically three pillars, so to say, for film funding on behalf of the Film Institute. Well, that's basically in short.
Thank you very much. I wanted just to maybe follow up on this last part. As you said, you have your funding from the Institute is one is from the government, which is supposed to be for regular support, about 21 million.
Yes.
Okay, and then the 40 million is really this OFI Plus, which is sort of like a tax rebate scheme.
No, it's not a tax rebate. It's nothing got to do with tax.
Okay.
Actually,
it's just about the spend.
It's just about the spend. It's an incentive, and it's non-repayable, which is also great for the producers. You don't have to pay the money back. You know, you can.
And I just wanted to mention an additional thing, which I saw that you also have a gender.
Yes.
Which is also a surplus.
Yes, we also do that. So if there's a kind of quota fulfilled for female part of the crew or represented in the project, this also gets an extra amount of money to support that for a next project. So because we want not just to give an incentive like to honor something and that's it, but to create something like a domino effect in a positive way, like more and more female writers, directors, behind the camera, in front of the camera are involved in the project. But this goes naturally, so we do not have a kind of quota system in the actual meaning like there's a fixed quota that we have to fulfill, but it's just something we very closely look at. And the interesting thing to me was when we had this quota discussion a few years ago, 4 years ago, that was quite harsh, of course, because it's always like, you know, it's just the cake and the pieces of the cake are the size they are, and it's always a struggle, you know, for support, and yeah. So, there were lots of different opinions about that, and the decision at the Film Institute was, okay, we do not have a fixed quota, but this is a goal, this is a strategic aim that we should try to follow. And only the effect of that was that much more projects with significant female participation were submitted. That was the effect of it. So the quota came naturally, and this is the great thing.
Okay. Before we go into the details of the co-production and how funding for co-production goes, I would now also give the word to Natasha to maybe just for our Austrian filmmakers gives a general overview of what is the role of the Slovenian Film Center and what you support in generally, and maybe then we start with co-production.
Yes, thank you, Petra. Slovenian Film Center is the counterpart of the Austrian Film Institute in Slovenia. It means that we are the central film body, the institution that's mainly there as a main funding body for film and audiovisual. We also support filmmaking in all the phases, from script development to the production and also distribution, also international representation of our films and filmmakers. We have calls only once a year. The only call that we have twice a year is the call for minority co-productions, because in Slovenian Film Center we have a separate budget for the minority co-production and a separate call. Slovenia has been involved in co-productions since 2005, I think. That this is where we started, and we do support regularly projects on the calls for minorities. I think this is something maybe you expected to ask me later, but since it's a co-production meeting, I think this is the main interest of the people in this room. That Slovenia is a small country. Most of our films are made in co-productions, and traditionally we've been co-producing with ex-Yugoslav countries, if I may simplify the history of our co-productions. But lately, in the last, let's say, 10 years, we've moved somehow, probably also because our budget raised and our films are better financed than they used to be. We are more and more involved in co-producing with neighbor countries. Italy is one of the countries that became a regular partner of Slovenian films. and therefore Austria is our strategic country that we want to improve cooperation with. And then, of course, it's also Hungary, because Hungary is also a neighbor of Slovenia, and those are all three countries who are traditionally not so present in cooperation. So we are working on that, building networks and partnerships between new producers to start telling the stories that we might even historically have many common ones, to work on them and work together. We always thought that the main reason for not being in some natural, organic cooperation with Austria was the language, because the barrier of the language is bigger than the one with the ex-Yugoslav countries, where we all understand each other still, since we lived for some time in the same country. But when the cooperation with Italy started to grow, we realized that language is not a barrier, that we just need to do events like this to connect you, and then it starts, because filmmaking in Europe is anyway based on co-production. So this is not about Slovenian Film Center so much, but more about the ambition of this event that we have. But Petra, you asked me.
That's fine. Now let's go into co-production so that our Austrian filmmakers will know. So in Slovenia, there are two calls for minority co-production projects. We do have quite, let's say, I'll use the word rigid system of how the projects are selected. It's all points based and things like that. So it's not really so much the strategy or the gut feeling, but more of a point system, which we are trying to change a bit, but we'll see. But Natasha, maybe if you tell the people what was the yearly budget for minority co-productions, what they can expect in the future co-productions, because I think it's good that we stipulate that Slovenia has been working and trying to get higher funding for a Slovenian Film Center for more than a decade. And at the moment it looks like that we are having some significant budget raise for Slovenian Film Center. So the word is yours about how much money in total, how much per project.
So we have one specific in Slovenia that is very rare in Europe. That is that aside from the money that you get at the call for minority co-productions with the Film Center, you are also eligible to use the film studio services for free, I wanted to say, but it's not the right expression. So it comes in a package.
It's an in-kind investment of the state.
Thank you, Petra. Yes, this is the right word. So the money that we were allocating for minorities until last year was up to 600,000 euros. This is something that we gave out last year, but this is just the money that came from the Film Center, and there is the additional evaluated state aid using the film studio in-kind services. This is how it works. You get, let's say, 100,000 from the Film Center, and then the producer can use the in-kind services of the film studio that's based in Ljubljana, and it's a public-owned film studio, which is very rarely in Europe, this kind of organization. But the money itself was 600,000 euros, and as Petra mentioned, we've now been given the information about the significant raise of the budget for next year, which means that also for minority co-productions we will raise. It's not clear yet what raise it will be, but definitely it will go up in gross, but also by how much we give per project. Now the call had 100,000 euros maximum, I think, per project, but this also will now change because we are in the moment of this budget raise. which I can tell you means for us that we are going from 9 million that we had in this year to almost 13 altogether for the next year, and 26 we expect another raise, hopefully, but for now this will be the number that we will be operating with.
Okay, so now I will just, out of these 600,000, how many minority co-productions were supported? What kind of projects?
The call is opened to short, long documentaries, fiction, animation, everything is eligible. And we had at Petras's a very rigid system of selecting the projects, unfortunately. Since we have quite old legal basis, the law that is dealing with that, we need to change, but the system is that we have the 3 persons in the committee that change every year. Like Roland says, it's hard to follow the strategy if you have so much disruption all the time, every year, and the new people. But how that relates to the number of projects. So the 3 people that choose the projects, they decide how many and how much money to each project, which in the past few years were many projects and not so much money per project, which we are now strategically changing. That will also change that if you apply for 100, then you cannot get 100, for example. But this is what was going on because it was all under the committee itself, the decision that's proposed to me at the end. So we've supported all kinds of projects with not so much money, but shorts, animations, documentaries. One of them recently was the co-production of the short film that got the Palme d'Or in Cannes this year. It's Croatian, Slovenian, Bulgarian. You can imagine 4 countries for a short film, but it won the Palme d'Or. So, yeah, a success.
Okay, thank you very much, Natasha. So now I will turn to you, Roland, and we will go more into the how a Slovenian project. It has ambitions. It found its Austrian partner. What are the steps to obtaining co-production support? What is the system? What you are looking at, and what is the budget, and so on?
Okay. So first of all, congratulations to the raise of the budget. That's good, but interesting to see how the pieces of the cake will get distributed now. We don't have an exact system like, okay, there's again a quota for minority co-productions or a certain amount for it. It's just we look at each project individually because it's so hard to define a one-fits-all solution for financing a film or for funding a film. Each feature film, and we talk about cinema, is some kind of prototype, so it really differs from project to project. So what's best for the project? Concerning minority co-productions, again, Austria is also a small country, and we depend on co-production, so we need stronger partners, at least if the budget of a project exceeds, I would say, more than 3.3 million euro. This is, so to say, the maximum that we can finance within Austria with the Film Institute, public broadcast, the regional financing, automatic support system. So about 3.2 something million, that's the highest amount that you can raise in Austria. So each project that has got a higher demand for production support has to be a co-production. And it's always difficult, as a majority partner to find your minority co-production partner. Most of the Austrian projects and producers, I must say, probably also for language reasons and for market reasons, which is also a very important aspect I'd like to stress a little later, look for Germany, of course. Germany is our most preferred co-production partner, so I would say 80% of the co-production is done with Germany, which is again a bit difficult because in Germany television is very strongly involved, and we try to be as independent as possible from television because we want cinema and not television program. So and also Switzerland, Luxembourg is also a very important strategic partner. But I think we begin to look more and more to our neighboring countries, like Slovenia. But as I said, each project is different. You have to have some kind of, and I wouldn't call it a gut feeling. Not only, that's not would not be enough. Like also some kind of market potential also. Okay. Like and there you go. When you have a genre film, let's say a comedy. Comedies hardly travel. So maybe these films are extremely successful in your own country. Like the most successful Austrian comedy, for example, didn't travel. Maybe in Germany a little bit, but that's it. So it's just for a national audience, and it doesn't really work. So I think for minority co-productions with, especially also with smaller countries, we should rather aim, I mean, this is possible, I wouldn't say no, but probably artistic excellence might be something that we could focus a little more on, because also these projects are even more difficult to finance. But there could be some kind of potential in finding projects that might have the potential to reach an A festival. Can be documentary, can be feature film, whatever. We do not support short films, so it's only 70 minutes at least.
Not even in animation?
No, not even in animation. Animation grew quite strongly actually within the last years. We established some kind of small, I would say, animation hub in Austria, and it started again with co-producing, and now the company is so strong that they almost majority produce animation films, full-length animation films. So this is also part of the strategy to have at least, I would say, statistically speaking, now 1.5 animation films per year. Okay. So I'd rather say 2. And concerning minority co-productions, in each, well, maybe let's call it a slate of our portfolio that we have within our funding decisions, we support at least, I would say, 1, sometimes maybe 2 minority co-productions every time when there's a call.
Which is 3 times a year.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's about 6 minorities.
Yes, roughly.
Roughly.
Yeah.
How many of those are non-German speaking minority co-productions?
1/3, I'd say.
1/3.
About 1/3.
Okay.
And the amount depends on the project. It can be, I mean, we're talking of different numbers for documentaries, then we talk numbers for feature films. Mm-hmm. But just to give you an idea, for a documentary, we would be ready to give something like 100,000, I would say so. And for a feature film, between 180, 200, 250 maximum, I'd say.
Do minority co-production projects are then also eligible for the support which you give out for cinema distribution?
Yes, of course. Okay. It's, every time the Austrian Film Institute is involved, even if it's a minority co-production, by law, on a legal basis, it's an Austrian film. Mm-hmm. So there's no difference on a legal basis. So all these films get full support then for the rest of their life, so to say. Okay. Yes.
So if the film, let's say, if the film travels to festivals, you cover part of the cost. If it's for domestic distribution, also the same.
Yes, yes. Okay. This is more or less automatic. Okay. Maybe another difference between the system between Austria and Slovenia is that, as I described, that the committee always takes the majority decision to support the project, but the decision that's taken is always, do we support the project or not? So it's a yes or no decision. Mm-hmm. The amount of money that's put into the project at the end of the day, until we sign the contract, this decision is only up to me by law. So I can say, decide, okay, is it 500, 600, 400, whatever. Actually the philosophy is not so much like, okay, we try to be in as many projects as possible with a rather little amount, because I mean, the costs are the costs, yeah. Actually, I would say almost all of the applications, they already made quite a clear and reasonable calculation. So, and when they need, let's say, 500,000, and you say, interesting, but we only give you 300. What's, where's the support for that? You do not help the project. Mm-hmm. So I think it's only fair to say yes or no. And if you say yes, you have to say a full yes and not just a half yes. Like being half pregnant doesn't really work. So. you and actually it's on the contrary, because lots of projects, you have plan A when you submit, and again it depends. You start at the Film Institute with the financing if it's a national film or a majority production, or you end at the Film Institute to close the financing at different stages. But sometimes the financing doesn't work. This is your plan A, but not all the support will come, not all the funds will say yes, but maybe not all the television stations, whatever. So at the end of the day, there's always something missing sometimes, like 50,000, 100,000, 150,000. So what do you do? Where do you go? Not so easy. So in most cases, it's like knocking on the door at the Film Institute. Could we have a little more money? And then again, it depends, how much money is still left and so on. But it's a flexible system, I think. And the core strategy actually behind that is really to support. I mean, we're film fund, so our goal is to enable projects, to support projects, and to give them as much money as possible.
And since today we will be then presented with a few projects that are still in development phase, that are looking into media slate funding and so on. What about support for development phase?
Yes, that's also possible. This is very rare, actually. I don't know why, but we don't get many applications for co-production development. It's possible at the phase of project development. So you have to have at least the first draft, and you can apply for co-development. That's possible, but I don't know for what reason, but it's very rare.
Okay. Well,
maybe also because you have to, again, there are so many aspects which are difficult to wrap up in 1 minute or 5 minutes, like time, trust, and things take time. You have to gain trust, you have to find the right partner for a project, also not so easy. Not every production company fits to every project, and it takes time to find the best combination. Sometimes at this still rather early stage of project development, you don't have the right partner yet. So maybe this is one of the reasons, but there must be more cases where partners already match, and then they can apply.
I mentioned this specifically because of the media support system of co-development for single projects. That's why I think it's good that we know that if Austria can be also an early partner if somebody...
Yeah, and the maximum amount for this kind of support is 50,000 euro.
Okay, thank you. Natasha, would you add anything about co-development also?
We also have this possibility that the project goes through applies for the development and then decides whether it applies to the minority or to majority production. So
if there's a change and okay.
We also, for example, that was a very good push for our cooperation with Italy. We build together with Friuli Venezia Giulia and Croatian Film Audiovisual Center a co-development fund, a small little co-development fund that is still there. It's called REACT. And this is separate from us. It has each
institute just puts in the money, and then it's
okay. So, but this is part of it is funding projects with up to 10,000 euros, and the other part of it is workshops for producers. This is how it started.
Okay, I will now move our attention to Fritz here, because we spoke about the national level of financing. We'll come back with some questions, I hope, also from the audience. But we will now switch to Fritz, because we don't have this kind of support in Slovenia, but Austria, of course, has regions, and it has regional support for film industry and filmmakers. So, Fritz, I will also give you the word for first you to inform everybody what kind of support is possible and just to introduce yourself.
Thank you. First of all, thank you all for this overwhelming honor to this special inviting, especially me in person, to this festival as a friend of Slovenian cinema. It's a really great honor. Thank you. Now I may talk. I'm here with you for years as director of the K3 Film Festival, And now I may talk to you as the head of the advisory board of Carinthia Film Commission. I'm in this position since a year. So we are a regional fund. Last year we stocked up our small budget, but still up to 500,000 euro. So we would like to be your complementary partner in co-production in the early stage and also in the late stage when there's some money missing. We have the very good news that we reserved some money also for this year. We have a new deadline, 30th of November. We support...
because you support your regional fund, but you actually support from development to
we
production
support, yeah, we support in general production. Might be too late now for November.
Okay.
But also project development, even also sales and promotion.
Okay.
So if you do subtitling, dubbing, market entry activities to Austria, but we need some reference to Carinthia.
Okay.
This will be done by the story, by location, but also by taking Corinthian companies.
Okay, and filmmakers from Carinthia.
Filmmakers and companies. You need to have this Corinthian reference by putting some money in the Corinthian film industry.
Okay.
So in general, we cover more or less 20 to 30% of the costs.
Which occur in Carinthia or
of the whole budget, but
okay. But you have the limit, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, that's more or less. We are advisory board. We are half tourism, and half is film industry and culture.
Okay.
So we are 6. We are parity. And I'm as the president of the advisory board. In case I could decide for one project. Okay,
so when a project applies, it applies with an Austrian partner, or it can apply directly, or is better with an Austrian partner? I think you can
even, for example, I'm not that much into administrative stuff, but you may correct me, but for example, for project development, you can even apply as a Slovenian company, but you need to cooperate some Austrian agency, like for sound, for camera, or some. Okay. You need to get these costs.
The Corinthian effect, as Fritz told before, it's about location. It's about the economic effect. Film partners from Carinthia to involve them. But the best thing is that somebody who's interested is calling us, the Corinthian Film Commission, so we can target.
You can also, if somebody is interested and finds a location and something, you can also help a Slovenian production company find a partner in Carinthia, maybe?
Of course, because we are part of the Corinthian tourist board. And so that's one chance, and we have a lot of location scouts around in Carinthia as well. And we have produced a folder for this event today, so we will give it to you later. They're the main facts for the additional call and also for the next calls in 2025. We have 2 calls a year, and in this case, this year 3.
Okay, so one is for the 2025, probably is spring and autumn calls? March.
It's the 15th of March. And the 26th of September, and it's also written down in the folder.
I would really like to thank you and applaud you that you came to Slovenia and you prepared a leaflet. Please, everybody, take it. A leaflet that is in English, German, and Slovenian. So thank you very much for respecting also a little bit minority.
May I just add it?
Yes. Go ahead, Roland.
Just a small add to that. When at the Austrian Film Institute, only qualified Austrian production companies can apply, so you cannot apply directly.
Okay. Yeah, it goes the same.
You need a partner for that, and the Carinthia Film Commission is very active. I think it's really cool to have this brochure here in Slovenian. The biggest regional fund, of course, in Austria, there are 9 counties, and actually all of them have some kind of regional funding. but obviously the biggest one is in Vienna Film Fund, which is our most strategic partner. They've got a budget now, I think, of around 13 million euro a year, they basically, when you finance a film in Austria, you need to have these, 3 partners on board. You need to have the Austrian Film Institute on a selective basis, maybe with ÖFI Plus and/or reference money, the Vienna Film Fund, and the Austrian Broadcasting Association. We haven't talked about television yet, which is also important for the financing of cinema. But we have a very special situation in Austria with that, which is, especially compared to Germany, totally different, and maybe one of the reasons why there are the outcome of, I would say, highly artistic films is much higher than in Germany, for example. Like when we have, we are really lucky, I must say, that we had Austrian films premiered in Cannes, Venice, Berlin, San Sebastian, wherever in the last 3 years in a row, every year. And German films, not so many. One of the reasons might be that television is not directly involved in the decision-making process as such. Like when we take our decision which projects to support, television is not part of the game. Only after that they can decide, okay, we join the project or not. And the good thing is, by law, they have to invest at least 8 million euros a year into cinema production. So they have to spend the money.
Of independent producers.
Exactly. So we keep, and this is one of the core elements for everything, for producing, also for funding independence, of course. You need freedom and you need to be independent. And independent might mean as a fund independent to a certain extent from politics, but you get the money, you get tax money, so you're responsible for that, okay. But also on an individual basis as a producer, like being independent, to a certain extent also from the market, especially from television, because I think feature films for television or documentaries for television that fit into a program are something else than an individual cinema production. So, and we aim for cinema, good old cinema, which is, by the way, not dying. The admissions are going up. The Austrian market totally recovered. We have really good admissions, and cinema is a social place, and people are social human beings, so they want to share this experience, sitting, in this big room and this kind of fireplace where the stories are told. So this is nothing that's dead, so to say, and no matter how strong, especially during the pandemic, the streaming rates and everything went up. They're going down again. So I think cinema is not dead.
We agree, and we are working on it to keep it alive. What I wanted to say, when I had a look at your website, I saw that the Film Institute is also the one keeping the score of the cinema admittance, because it's also part of the then automatic support and reference and so on. But in total, as for this television support, do they decide to support also a co-production project?
Yes, sure. Yes, of course.
And what does their support mean? Just the support, or do they also obtain already some of the rights for the Austrian TV territory?
For Austrian and South Tyrol, but it's non-exclusive, and it's for 7 years. So this is
okay.
It's okay.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to say something?
Just one sentence, because Roland has mentioned it before. There are other regional funds, and it's also possible to combine them. So as we have a society commitment with them, so it's the Austrian Film Commission and funds. And also when we go to Berlinale or Cannes, we do it together. And if they are producers, you can also combine Vienna with Carinthia, so that's possible too.
Okay. And also, let's make it clear that maybe if a film project does not get support, minority co-production support from the institute, it does not mean it's not able to go look for support, let's say at Carinthia and so on.
Absolutely. I mean, the only tricky part is to fulfill all the requirements concerning the effects.
Yes.
Because regional funds always want regional effects, and you can not multiply them, so you cannot have the same regional effects in 3 different regions.
I will give a word to the audience if there's a specific question somebody would have. so we can address it. We have 10 minutes.
I have just one question concerning the Slovenian Film Center. Are you only supporting cinema productions, or you're the same as Austrian Film Institute in
No.
Austria? No.
No. Yes, thank you for your question. We mainly support cinema in all phases, but we have a special line of funding that goes to so-called audiovisual projects. And through that line, in the past few years, we started slowly to support series. This is one of the new elements of our funding. But yeah, it's mainly everything is cinema, but a special budget line goes to audiovisual projects, which then there is a special thing is that it's formed in a way that this audiovisual funding does not go with the film studio. Film studio only goes to the film project, so the cinema part of our funding, and the audiovisual not. But what we didn't mention, since I was listening to Roland now, is that we also have the public broadcaster obliged by law to invest 2% of their yearly income, if I'm not wrong, to the independent cinema projects.
But it's a special, but it's just for the Austrian producers, but it's a special call. It's not a call that goes through the Slovenian Film Center. It's another application to another institution.
And they decide themselves.
And they decide themselves, okay. So it's not... also, it's something that should be changed probably. Somebody else? But maybe Natasha, at the moment, the Slovenian Film Center does not support TV series as a minority co-production, or a series for a streaming. I think that was really your question, where you were aiming.
No, it was
both.
One part of the question.
Yeah.
And others, could you also tell which quota of, which national quota of spendings you are demanding?
One thing regarding the first question I need to add is, as we all know, that now the co-production agreement, the European co-production agreement on series is going into till the end. So this Jurij Lukashevich project of trying to encourage co-producing in the series area is opening space for the future, probably also for minorities. I can see it's coming. At the moment, Petra, of course, as she said, we are only supporting the majority productions of series and audiovisual works. And regarding the territorial spending, which was your second question, we have this very, very open. In principle, it is that 20% you can spend out and 80% you need to spend here. This is the principle. For minority co-productions, the balance is different. It's 60-40. So this is
40% of the public money obtained from Slovenia can be spent outside of Slovenia.
But then if you are then with the broadcasters' money, which comes on board and things like that, it's different. But with this state aid support which we give, it's the spending obligation is like that.
Any more questions?
Thank you first for your presentation. My name is Tina Smrikar. I'm president of the Slovenian Animated Film Association, so my question is directly linked to that. If I understand correctly, first, you were speaking mainly of, or solely of, feature film projects. So in the Slovenian landscape, it's mainly of short animations, or only, because of our size and history and whatever. So my question would be directed in the situation in Austria, and of course also in possibilities of co-production, which we do for shorts from the Slovenian part, both ways. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, as I said, we do not support short films. There are 4 different funding bodies on a federal basis in Austria, so it gets a bit complicated. One of the funding bodies is located right at the Ministry of Culture. It's called Innovative Film, and they support short films, innovative films, experimental films of all length, formats, everything, including animation. But they do, as far as I know, co-productions only in exceptional cases. So it's not so easy for animation, short film, co-production. To be honest, very difficult to do this in Austria. The tradition, so to say, for animation in Austria is quite recent, is quite young. We didn't do 5 years, or maybe I would say at least 10 years ago, nobody talked about animation in Austria. That was something there's a much stronger tradition in Eastern European countries or in Asian countries. For us, it was because there was nobody there, and those people that really had a very good education in animation went to Germany or worked somewhere else, but not in Austria. But this slowly started to build within the last years, and there's one very big production company now doing lots of animation projects for television series, international series, but also feature films for cinema, but long films. And they started as a minority co-producer because we tried to, so to say, build them up a little bit. Like, okay, how can you become part of a bigger process? Is by gaining experience, gaining partners, becoming part of the animation world, so to say. They did really well. And most of these projects are very commercial. It's like family entertainment. Which is actually one of the core genres that really works in the cinemas admission-wise. And I would say they do, they get support for, I would say, 1 project a year. So we place our bet, so to say, and our strategic aim on the long format. But to be honest, for animation short films, not at the Film Institute, maybe right at the ministry, but you would have to ask people at the ministry. But I can, if you want, you can, we can talk about that later. I can give you the contacts to these people.
Petra, may I have a question for Roland?
Of course.
Because this also bothers me, since we have you will see a couple of projects that need creative Austrian partnerships. So they need either composers, Vienna locations, Vienna orchestra. Does it play in your decision making when you get a project? You said artistic excellence is something. Does it play any role that you look more to the projects that involve certain creative participation of Austrian part? So, do you?
Yes,
yeah?
sure.
Because,
I mean, again, this is. I'm always hesitant answering questions like this or that, black and white. Sometimes it's in between. And it really, again, depends on the project. Like, I think, of course, the more Austrian participation behind the camera, in front of the camera, the better. On the other hand, what we really like to support is the best possible project. So what we do not like is just, okay, we're going to apply in Austria, so we need this and that from Austria. Maybe it doesn't make sense for this project. So you have to be sensible and reasonable, and it has to make sense. And I think you can see that if it makes sense or not, or if it's just a project where, and I don't mean this in a sarcastic way, like, okay, there's just some money missing, well, let's go there and pretend, to have some kind of artificial co-production. That doesn't really work. So it really has to be organic in the project. And this can be individual. But as I said, at the end of the day, it's not, we look, of course, at the percentage, so to say, if you want, of the participation. But at the end, it's always what counts, what's best for the project in general.
But in general, mode really artistic or cinema potential.
Yeah, these are the
main,
core,
and then everything
exactly,
in between.
Yes,
Another
exactly,
small
yeah.
sub question is, this is what I believe producers, even though you don't ask, I will ask. If you apply for Vienna fund, for example, which is somehow more economy-based, as I can understand,
Effect-based,
yeah. You can apply for Vienna fund with your project if you shoot in Vienna, for example, without having your support previously.
Yes,
That's an
of course.
independent
Totally
funding
independent.
body.
Yeah.
Okay, just.
Can combine it with ÖFI Plus.
Yeah, with ÖFI Plus. Okay.
Yeah. We combine everything with everything, more or less.
One more question.
So many sources of financing. That's something we have to learn from the Austrians.
I will just, we have one more question, then I will have to switch to the presentation part. Go ahead.
Perfect, thank you. Hi, I'm Livia from Grafilm. We are an Austrian production company based in Carinthia, so right at the border to Slovenia. And we are mainly producing TV feature films. For us, it's interesting also if we're shooting in Austria and doing some parts or days or like half of the film in Slovenia. Is there any possibility for funding or other cooperation for TV films?
Yes, thank you. I did not mention that we don't have so many sources of financing. That's really exclusive what Austria has. But we have, aside from film centers, selective support and public broadcasters selective support. We also have the cash rebate scheme that represents 25% of the cash rebate of the spending in Slovenia, in the territory of Slovenia. There are certain conditions for that, but they are not, irrational. And it's working. What?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
What did she say?
No, nothing.
Yeah. So
No.
this works since 2017. We don't have minimum spending, which is something that normally many countries do have. We don't have. So you can also, if you're spending 20,000 in the territory of Slovenia, you have camera people from Slovenia, you can apply, and you apply to us because we are operating the call of cash rebate. The money then comes from the Ministry of Culture directly, but we do all the administration and the cultural test that is needed, and it's also, of course, for TV content. The only exceptions, of course, are the commercials, which is not allowed to state aid support, and also sitcoms and really...
Can I just add, thank you, Natasha. I would just also like to add to the Austrian filmmakers that even if you get a minority co-production support in Slovenia, if you have additional spend, you can also use tax rebate, or if you don't get cash rebate, or if you don't get, we also have a few co-productions at the moment in this sense now done that if they were not supported at the Slovenian Film Cert for minority call, but they still needed to do it, they wanted to do it in Slovenia, they wanted to use the services and so on, or the authors, we tried to at least get them some funding back through cash rebate. Now, I'm really sorry, but because we are really here today because of the projects, because as we said, we are here for the content, not just for words. I have to do a little bit of paperwork and then we will switch this. So, hvala vsem, ki ste nas spremljali preko spletnega prenosa, ki ga zdaj zaključujemo zaradi predstavitve projektov. Hvala lepa. So this is done, housekeeping done. And I will now go into the audience. Roland and Fritz, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I wish to invite you. And please, after presentations are done, the aim is that you get